Chapter 1. The Election of 1860. Abraham Lincoln gains national fame debating Stephen A. Douglas for the Illinois Senate seat in 1858. The Little Giant, as Douglas was nicknamed, again faces Lincoln in the presidential election of 1860. Many of the issues previously debated by the two men are factors in the general election. Despite frequently declaring that he's not an abolitionist, Lincoln states that he is morally opposed to slavery and that it should not be allowed to expand into federal territories. That's enough for Southerners to intensify their threats to break up the Union if Lincoln were to be elected. As for Stephen Douglas, he's caught in the unfavorable position of being a Southern sympathizer just as events, including the John Brown saga, fuel the momentum of abolitionism across the North. Attempting to appeal to both sides, Douglas loses his Southern support and the Democratic Party splits. That split gives the opening for Lincoln and the Republican Party to take control of the federal government.
Good evening, and welcome to American News Network's special coverage of Election Night 1860. Carter Anderson reporting. This is truly a historic night as Northerners turned out in near all-out fashion to elect Abraham Lincoln the next and 16th President of the United States. Overall, 82% of eligible voters cast a ballot. Mr. Lincoln, running on a platform to limit the extension of slavery in the territories, but not in those states where slavery already exists, defeated his old foe, Senator Stephen A. Douglas. Mr. Lincoln, who garnered national fame while debating Mr. Douglas for the Illinois State Senate office in 1858, won the electoral votes of every free state except New Jersey, which went to Mr. Douglas. However, there is another side to this story, one that portends some trying days ahead for the country. For that report, we go to Jackie Chase at Republican campaign headquarters in New York.
Thank you, Carter. You are indeed correct. This election may be a defining moment in the American democratic experiment. If we look at the results on the map, we can see just how divided the country is. While Mr. Lincoln swept the North, he won only 40% of the popular vote. In Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware, Mr. Lincoln won only 2 of 996 counties. The Northern Democratic nominee, Senator Douglas, won 30% of the popular vote, leaving him just 480,000 votes shy of Mr. Lincoln. Mr. Douglas, known as the Little Giant, ran on a platform that appealed to those who fear a Republican victory will bring an end to the Union. Many of the Republican campaign workers I spoke to tonight said that Mr. Lincoln is like them, a common man with a humble beginning who taught himself to read, eventually becoming a lawyer who argued before the Supreme Court. From the time he was a congressman, Mr. Lincoln has remained steadfast in his opposition to the expansion of slavery and its moral failings. They trust he will not let them down and capitulate to the power of slave owners as prior presidents have done before.
Thank you, Jackie. It does appear that Northerners declared with their votes that the matter of slavery needs to be settled now. For the past several decades, Southern leaders have threatened secession if they did not get their way. These threats became more thunderous over the past few months as early voting favored Mr. Lincoln. Will we now see Southerners turn those threats into action? For more on Southern reaction to Lincoln's election, let's go to Danielle Burke at Southern Democratic headquarters in Richmond, Virginia.
Carter, the reaction here to the election results can best be described as outraged and defiant. Southern leaders say that Lincoln as president means tyranny in the South. Though Mr. Lincoln has stated publicly he is not an abolitionist, Southerners apparently do not trust him. The Richmond Examiner's lead story says, the party founded on the single sentiment of hatred of African slavery is now the controlling power.